Hello, good evening. Hope everyone's doing okay. Let's see who's here. Hi, Claudia. I will sort out your private group. Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to start off looking at the S&P 500 seasonal chart. This is based on 30 years seasonality. And you can see that, when we rally from October, we tend to keep rallying, even though with pullbacks all the way into year end. So, yes, it is seasonal to have a bit of a wobble at the end of November and, the beginning of December as well. But it's not a trend change usually. So, one of the things that was going to flip this and perhaps cause us to have a more bearish December would be tapering. So tapering of the massive stimulus that the Federal Reserve have been printing. And that would have been a negative for stocks. Stocks don't tend to do what, market, even though the Fed kept stressing that tapering was not related to rate hikes, the market, assumed that, and I don't think that that's unfair either. Anyway, this new variant of the virus has kind of brought a little bit of a curveball, especially the market's reaction to it, because I feel like the Fed are unlikely to taper unless there's a bit more information about this variant, because it could be really bad news. So that would put off the taper. That would be more bearish for the dollar, and it would be rocket fuel for stock indexes, and it would help keep them going. So I think, barring a disaster, I don't see why we shouldn't see new all-time highs in these stock indexes into year end, just following the seasonal pattern, no other reason. Now, there is a whole bunch of stuff out there that reacted pretty badly, but at the moment, this just looks like this is a 4-hour chart of the S&P or a daily chart. If we were going to stay bearish, or if I was going to stay bearish, I would want to see this close with this big down thrust candle on a daily candlestick to be a bearish candlestick and remain one. I would want to see this close no more than 50% up on this big down day and below the 20 moving average, in other words below sort of 46.50, and we've closed back above it, which makes this look like a big 3-wave correction, and we're going to keep going higher. It also makes this look like wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've still got a wave 5 to come, so potentially new highs to come, I think, for the S&P after this pullback, just because if we close here, this is a bullish harami, and it kind of just turns things around again. Here on the lower time frame on a 4-hour, you can see that this is just a 3-wave correction for now. So could it turn into a bigger correction? Yes, it could, but it would still be a correction. So a bigger correction would just be, then 3 waves up, and then another, 3 or 5 waves down, and then off we go again. So, and that would make sense along with kind of year end. So the day before the month end, you do often see window dressing. You see stuff being bid up, prices pushed up in stocks. And then tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a pullback day tomorrow. If we look at the NASDAQ as well, this is a huge bullish reversal. There's no other way. Even if we close here or a little bit lower as an inside bar, this is still a bullish harami. We dropped underneath the 236 fib, which was 50% of this big drop candle. Had we held there as resistance, then that would have been a bearish signal for continuing lower. But we haven't. It's as though Friday didn't happen. Here we are back up again. So, and again, a perfect 3-wave correction here in the NASDAQ. So I would expect a bit of a pullback here tomorrow. We might even see a little bit of an inverted head and shoulders pattern or something like that. But this chart hasn't given anything back. We are back above the 20 moving average and looking higher in these stock indexes. And that is quite good news for crypto, as long as the dollar doesn't kill the party. as you know, if we've got risk on, we've got risk on. So expecting a little bit of a pullback tomorrow, and then stuff to continue higher. Let's take a quick peek at the dollar index, because this news with the COVID, and therefore I think what might happen with the taper, you know, a bit of a pause with the taper, has caused a little bit of a pause. If we look at last week's candle, we've got this shooting star, bearish reversal candle. It's quite a small one relative to the strength of the uptrend. So I'm not necessarily crazy bearish with it. If I measure this first leg and project it from this second leg though, it's happened at where this big swing is 1.618 of this first one. That's very often a place where you would see a bit of a correction before we continue higher. That's often the sign of a wave 3. I'm finding it a little bit hard to count 5 waves up here, which is why I think it might keep going anyway, but it's stalled. Let's put it this way. We've stalled into month end, and here with our big down day on Friday and the rally today, unlike stock indexes, this has held as a bearish reversal. As long as we stay in the bottom half of this big red candle, we can expect lower, and if we were to expect lower, I would say 95.50 or whatever. So a pullback in the dollar, a big risk on rally in stocks. These are all really good fuel, you know, for crypto and for other stuff to rally, and it's looking, I think, pretty good for that. Okay, so let's see what we're going to take a look at next. I can't remember what I wrote down. Okay, so oil. So first off, there was a huge down day in oil. Now, this is the January futures. January futures dropped down to around 67, and the daily 200 moving average. The daily 200 moving average really is the king of the chart. You know, it's in terms of trend, oil really respects it. If we look back in time, it's not a surprise at all to see us bouncing from here. We've also bounced from a 61.8 fib level. That normally means if you can get above the 50% level. So here's our 61.8, here's our 50% level. I've drawn it from this low to high, so the most recent swing of this rally after this big 3-wave correction. If we get above this 50% level, which is at 72.30, our next upside resistance, and the next place to sell it is basically 74.99. So that's what I'd be looking for, and I think that's quite a likely pattern in 3 waves from here. So we have up, pullback, another leg up, and then I wouldn't be surprised at all to see another leg lower and down to 65. And the reason is, like, oil just seems to like that 786 pattern, and that would give us a little bit of a Gartley pattern if we were to do that. So we would do something like this. So down to 65, 65, 70, but for now, at least anyway, for the next couple of weeks, I think this is set to do a little bit of a climb back and to retest 75 from underneath. If I look at it in Brent oil, this is a continuous chart of Brent oil. I'm just going to go out to the monthly chart here. If we see where we are, this is a little bit of a false breakout of potentially of a wedge. We're sitting on potential support as well of this monthly 200 moving average, but I'm going to go down to the daily. Here's us also bouncing from this daily 200 moving average. So pretty strong support for oil to buy the dip from. Now, if oil fell because they were expecting this new COVID variant to cause demand destruction again, everybody to be home, everything to shut down, and then it turns out that this virus isn't quite as I mean, we know it's really infectious, but if it's not quite as serious as that and nothing does shut down, then, you know, this would be quite good news for oil. I think this is a COVID story more than anything else, because we are bouncing here initially from this 61.8 level. We need to close above this 50% level, which is at 75.72, and then we hit 78.31. I would not be surprised at all if we did the same pattern here in Brent and we bottomed around 70. But for now, we're bouncing and from a really good level. So let's see how we go in oil. The other chart that I think is really interesting at the moment is Nat Gas. Let's take a look at Nat Gas. Now, I'm going to look at a monthly chart of Nat Gas. For the longest time, you know, we've had resistance at around 4.8, 4.82, which is also big 236 fib retrace from these highs. On the monthly here, we finally, you know, with the rally and especially the rally in European gas prices and so on, we've gotten above this 4.82 resistance level, which has been resistance really since 2010. Now here we are on the daily or the weekly back testing this 4.82 level for support. I really like this after this three-wave correction that we've just made to find support and turn up higher from here. So I'm looking on retests for this 4.82 level to hold, and if it does and turns up 6.9 on the upside, I think this is a really nice three-wave correction we've made. And as long as we don't go any lower, we've got a bit of a sideways range until we break out, and the breakout is going to be above 5.4. So if we look at this on a lower time frame, I was expecting this to be retested today and see if we find support here in a slightly lower high. We've kind of just stopped here. Like, for me, this is as close to the level that you get where you know, you always want to buy as close as you can to where you're wrong, because we're wrong under here. And so I think this is a really nice trade, especially if oil continues to fall. You know, and Nat Gas is a byproduct in the US, is a byproduct of fracking. So that should help these prices higher, I think. So that's what I'm looking at. Nat Gas, a really good level to bounce from this week. So a few things out there. I think if there's no questions about any of the regular markets in the comments, would I mind taking a look at the Aussie dollar? I certainly would. So the Aussie dollar, you know, is super more correlated than some pairs to stock indexes. So let's take a look at the Aussie dollar in the weekly, because in fact, I'm going to start on the monthly, because we've had this big rally, like super rally off this low. So we're moving in big kind of this was a 786. This was a big three-wave rally for me, and then a big 786, 886 retrace. The 886, the Aussie dollar absolutely loves the 886. And when you reverse at an 886 fib, your target is back to the 50%. And that's exactly what we did. So we bounced from our 886 fib, and then we hit our target up here at the 50%. And then the market has to decide which way next. If we keep going, then our second target is up here at this 236 fib level in this harmonic pattern. So we know that if we break above the previous highs from this year at 0.7929, we're going to rally all the way to 0.959, almost to equality. That would be quite something, wouldn't it? Short term. I do feel like this is going to build a bigger right shoulder, if you like, here for a bottom. So this is a left shoulder, big head, big right shoulder. So I'm going to hide those fibs for now. I know we're looking really big picture at the moment because we've got this dollar strength. So 50% back would bring us down here. This move in the dollar has been quite, this move on Friday as well was particularly ugly in the Aussie dollar, and we haven't quite found our feet yet. I think potentially here at 0.705, a little bit lower, which is a 38.2 of this entire rally, maybe where we find support. It would be this previous double bottom level. It's a bit of a wishy-washy level, 38.2 fibs, so we might not stop exactly on it. And would it be equal to wave one if we got there? A little bit. Yeah. a little bit lower, 0.708, and then I think that we're going to have another go at those highs in Aussie dollar. So for the moment, the path of least resistance is lower. I know we've stopped around these previous lows, but I really just think that this double bottom level and a little bit further is where we are headed. This looks like a bear flag to me, sideways consolidation in a downtrend. We might see a bigger bounce if we broke these highs, but for now we've just had a little false breakout here on this 4 hour, haven't we? And we're still in this sideways. So I'm saying I think consolidate and one more step lower, 0.702 to 0.705, and I would definitely be looking for a bullish reversal down there. So Richard Jones, a little bit further to go. Hello. Okay. It is cold, isn't it, Alita? It is cold here. We had a really bad storm on Friday night, and I had no power until last night, so I was freezing in my camper van making coffee trying to stay warm. It wasn't funny. Okay, let's take a look at some crypto. I'm going to talk about a few scenarios for Bitcoin, and I'm going to start with no scribbles on my chart, which is unusual for me, and we'll go from here. And I'm going to put it on log scale like this for the moment. Okay. We could even hide these. Now, when I look at the low we made in December 2018 in this rally, there's a couple of ways we could look at this. For me, I look at this as wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and I think that we're in a wave 4 here, and we've got a wave 5 to come. Now that's quite a look, now I've got all my scribbles back on. That's potentially quite a more bearish scenario, because it would mean here in this correction that we're in that we're likely to go a little bit lower, and 46.58 would be where we would where this swing would be 61.8 of this swing. Let me take log scale off so that makes sense. Now, so 46.500 and potentially all the way down to 32.800 would be if that's where we are if we're still in this big wave 4 then on the weekly. So we'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then one more higher, and then we do another bigger wave 4 and then carry on higher. That's quite a bearish count, as I said, because it suggests that we've got further to fall here. There are some more bullish ways to look at this, and we'll do that next. But now, if that I'm wrong, which I could be, then when I measure in terms of trend, you know, I rely a lot on fib retrace levels. If I put my fibs from these lows that we made in March 2020, or even from down here, as long as we stay above the 236 fib level, for me, we're still in an uptrend and we're not doing that bigger wave 4 correction. But because this so far is just kind of one swing, it's not kind of clearly a 3-wave correction, is it? It could be 1 and then a funky 2 and 3, but you know, because of that, it may be that we rally here and we do a little bit of this. We could even make a triangle here and keep going. But as long as we stay above 53 or 54,000, then we're still in an uptrend. No damage to the trend, and we could still go higher from here. If we lose this 53,000, then I'm back to my measuring, and I think that 46 is where our second swing, is it 46? Yeah, 46,500 is where our second swing could take us. Now, if we do that in an equal measured move, we could kind of reverse engineer that a bit, couldn't we? So if we measure from this high to this low that we've just made, and we put where the equal measured move is on our level, then we could say, okay, we can rally from here to 61,900, and then all that would line up, wouldn't it, very nicely. Now that was a bit of a stretch of the reverse engineering, but that's my kind of bearish scenario for where we are here in Bitcoin. And, you know, for this whole rally then, this 5-wave rally, that would, if we look at where that 46 level is, that's somewhere between 50 and 61.8. That's pretty good for a trend. You know, there's lots, it wouldn't look weird either, would it? So we could do that, and then a whole another big wave 5, and wave 5s can extend a long way. That would also flip that kind of seasonal thing that Bitcoin does, whereas, you know, we rally until the end of December and then we have a bit of an ugly January. I would really like to sell off now until January and then rally all next year, but, you know, there we go. Now, so that's the bearish scenario. So the bullish scenario has us holding this 236 fib. We're still going up, everything's good. Let's go back out to the weekly again. I don't need to go into log scale for this, but there is a way to count this that says that, hold on. Here we go. I've got Petra. I want to use Petra's chart, but that this actually is a new wave 1. So we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We pull back to 50 or 61.8 of this swing, and so we've gone big wave 1, pull back, and start the count again with this one too. And if that's the case, when this correction that we're doing now has finished, just like the wave 5, the way I've counted it, we should see really strong upside movement. So whichever way we count those, then that's what we would be looking for. Really strong upside movement when this correction that we are in finishes 3 waves and it's over. So that would mean that if we count from this low, we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We come back down here somewhere 50%, maybe 61.8, maybe to these lows, and then again, end of the year, we would have a really strong rally. We would just differ in where we would count. This would have us, if we did that in wave 3, if this is still a big wave 4, it would just be the start and we'd be wave 1. So those are the 2 ways that we would look at this, if that was the case. Now, what about the really bullish scenario? So the really bullish scenario for Bitcoin, let's zoom all the way out. That has this rally, the high that we made in April, May, as a big wave 1 complete. So we don't start from here. We start from here. This is our wave 1. This is our 1, 2, 3 wave back, wave 2. And this is 1 of 3. And so again, this correction still has us, for me, you know, this could be our correction finished not long after here. You know, we could go sideways. This is wave 1, 2, and we're about to start wave 3 of 3, potentially before the year end. So either way, you know, whichever way we do it, even if I think that this is a big wave 4 and we've got further to fall, that's my worst case scenario. It's not the high for Bitcoin. It's just a pullback. So potentially we could keep going from here. So what if we're not going to make a new low underneath now this, and this is the bottom? Well, if that's the case, let me put my moving averages on. We've got a lot of resistance. Whenever you see, these are my daily moving averages. Whenever first time you come back to daily moving averages and they're the wrong way round, very often you do a deep retrace or a retest of the lows. We did it here, rallied back to moving averages the wrong way round, and we came all the way back sort of 886 before we went up again. Here we rallied off the low, moving averages were wrong way round, did a really deep retrace before we bounced up again. So I would expect here, or perhaps a little bit higher at these highs, I would expect us to get into a little bit of trouble, and we would have at this point a really deep retrace, and then we'd be looking for a higher low or a double bottom before we kick off again. More bullish, what we might do, we can see clearly where our trend resistance is. What we might also do here, very often do, is an inverted head and shoulders pattern. We might just do 5 waves up, rally back 50 or 61.8 and turn up again. And if you see that pattern, that would also be a bullish reversal pattern. So that's another way to just get in if that's what's going to happen. So you buy this here, stop under the low, and now you're looking for it to make a new high and see what happens when we retest the highs and if we keep going or not. And then, you know, you just keep riding it. That's all you can do. If we were to do this and then we rally up here and we end up making three, you know, a equal measured move pattern like this, and we drop back below the neckline, then that would be probably a sell signal for me, and we might see that next leg lower. Once we get above this, if we make this pattern, you really don't want to see it drop back underneath it if possible. It's, you know, on a retest, it should then become support, and, you know, we keep going higher. So those are the scenarios that I'm looking for in Bitcoin at the moment. Let's see in the comments what's going on. I'll try and look at Ripple. Hello, Johnson videos. Okay. So potentially bottom is in. Potentially, you know, we could see some really quite bullish moves in stocks, and the market kind of overdid it on Friday, and that will all help. Any delay in the taper and the dollar, that all those things are potential to help crypto continue higher. I have to say that I went through a lot of alt charts today, and most of them look really tough. You know, they're all in sideways correction. There's no trend. The moving averages are flat. I think everything is waiting to see what Bitcoin does here. There are a few that are still in a really nice uptrend that I think have a good potential. There are ones that everybody seems to be looking at that we should pay attention to as well. So the first one of these is Mana. Now, for me in Mana, potentially, I think that we have, if I count this, I think this is wave 1, 2, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, and we've finished 3 of 3 here. One of the reasons that I think that is if I measure from this wave 1 of 3, project it from here, this 6.54 lines up, you know, with where I would want to see it end and a bigger pullback. But for now, you know, whilst we're riding the moving averages up and everything is still moving higher, we should look for it to continue higher. So what would a breakdown look like in Mana? Well, you see this channel that we're in and how we are riding these 4-hour moving averages. I think if this channel breaks, we're going to see a bigger correction in Mana and not a new upswing. This is a retest, and we are likely to come back to around 3.5 in these prior lows. For now, though, as long as we stay above these moving averages, we're still going higher. And so as long as we stay above 4.5, I'm still looking up from here and no reason to bow. When I look at this on a lower time frame, this really does look like a nice bottoming pattern. We've broken above that neckline, pull back, find support, and so we're going to look for it to keep going higher. And so remember, this dashed line is the high from before, back above it again. So I think it's looking, well, not too bad at all in Mana at the moment. I wouldn't dump it, but again, we lose this orange trend line, we lose the hourly 200 moving average, then a bigger correction is underway. And I think so a lot's going to depend on what the bigger market does in crypto and whether everything stays bid or not. So yes, Mana holding on and doing all right at the moment. Let's take a look at MATIC, because MATIC was one of the ones this morning, before everything rallied, MATIC had all the daily moving averages above it that it needed to get above. And I thought it might struggle, whereas Mana, for example, didn't. However, happy days. I can say that we've gotten back above all of these daily moving averages. And so, yes, potentially, let's take that away because we hit this target. Okay, I'm going to tidy up here. We're in a rising channel in Mana. We're still in our rising channel. We're still going up. We're holding these moving averages. And see along the bottom line here, our daily 200 moving average, as long as we stay above that, each time we come back to it, we certainly get a really decent bounce, then we're still going up. I had thought that here we might dip down to this 200 moving average again, but instead, no, we're on our way up again. So happy days. Now, a bearish scenario for MATIC, it could be that, you know, this is just a correction and this is just a big B wave. 1.8, if we got up to 2.0, couldn't get any further, or a double top or any sign of a topping pattern, that would be over. Because remember, we're not quite, until we're at new highs, and whilst we have our moving averages flat and going sideways, we don't have a trend. So we need, and when you don't have a trend, you play it as a range and you wait for a breakout. So we really need above this trend line, next leg higher. Otherwise, this is sideways consolidation around sideways moving averages, and we do have potential for another drop. So far so good in MATIC, certainly a good recovery, and not headed lower yet. AVAX is one that just keeps going and going. Let's take everything away and look at how these moving averages keep holding it, and it keeps higher. This one has made a nice three-wave correction. Now, it could be sometimes, so if we turned up higher from here, we'd be looking at a correction kind of on the scale of these corrections, wouldn't we? Three waves and up we go again. And you can see whenever we've done this before and we've got underneath these moving averages the wrong way round, as soon as we get back above them again, we're on our way up. So back above this 50, back above these 4-hour moving averages or the hourly 200, we'd be on our way back up again. If we stall here, then it would just be a three-wave correction. And if we stall where we are now, that's exactly what we've got. So we've got a sideways range, basically. So here's our double bottom. Here's our double top. That's the range that we need to break out of. If we do, we should fly. If we don't, and we see another leg lower here, this is just sideways consolidation. I think, coupled with the bounce of the daily 20 moving average, that this is looking really good to keep going higher from here. Retest 142. If we get above 142, I've got a target range between 200 and 225 next for AVAX. So, you know, no reason, it doesn't, it certainly doesn't look, it's not overbought. The closer you can buy to the moving averages, the least likely you're overbought. Overbought is when you're a million miles and stretched away from these moving averages. This is actually a really nice place to buy. So our trouble area, if we break higher here, will just be a retest of the previous highs, and then hopefully the 200s, here we come, next for AVAX. So that one's holding up pretty good too. Let's take a look at REEF, because REEF has got one of those charts where it's pulled back to exactly kind of where you would want it to pull back to. Let's tidy up a few of these things. Now, big picture, I put my fibs from the lows to the highs. When you bounce from a 786, your target is the 38.2, and then you look to come back into the middle and see which way next, down or up. In this, I feel like as long as we hold above here, this is a really nice third touch of a trend line bounce level. It's also the 200 moving average, and if I go back and I put those other, not these fibs, but if I put our retrace fibs on, let's hide those. We've rallied to the 50%, and now we've pulled back 50%. So from here we should see another leg higher. This is our first leg, and so on. Our resistance is going to be 50. When you do that mean reverting thing, which we've done, 50%, 50%, then your trouble level is 50% of the drop. So that's going to be here. And above 50% of that drop, we should be in our next upswing. So above 0.029, and above the daily 50 moving average, we're back in an uptrend in REEF. For now, we're bouncing, and this is a little bit of a no-brainer target, I think, here in the middle and this daily 50 moving average. And quite a strong pivot level if we look left as well, here, here, and here. So I'm looking for, with this really nice price action, REEF to bounce back to 0.0292 and above 0.0292. We're looking for 0.0485 next. That one looks quite good. If we don't, if we just get up here and we fail, we're going to see another swing lower. So that's the deciding line for REEF. Okay, ENJ. Let's ask for now. Switch to regular candles. Pretty spectacular bounce off the lows last on yesterday in ENJ after this breakdown. Anytime you do that and you put your fibs on from high to low and you get above the 236, you're going up again. This was a really nice pullback to the daily 20 moving average as well, which we can see is really nice support here and here and here, and here we are looking to go higher again. What I really like about this as well is how we're holding above these previous highs. This little inside bar pullback though says more sideways really than anything else, and potentially little inside inverted head and shoulders pattern. So let's draw this here like this. Here's our neckline from the high. That's what we've got to break above to be going higher. That's what we couldn't close above. So we're going to be bullish in ENJ above this neckline on a close above this neck, above 3.9. So close above 3.9 gives us our move. And if we can't, then unfortunately this is just a three-wave rally and we're going to continue lower in engine. So let's see if we can hold these lows overnight and make a base and turn up higher from here in ENJ. If we go back to the daily, all our moving averages point to higher, and yeah, this is a really cool place for it to pull back to. So ENJ holding up much better than some of the others as well. DOT. For me, when I look at this in terms of moving averages, I really can't see a reason on the daily for DOT to hold support here. But when I measure it, it's 50% back from the entire rally. So that's always a really cool place to bounce from, 50% back exactly. And if we look at the weekly, we've got our weekly 20 moving average here. So this is another one where it's an epic level for the uptrend to resume in DOT. Whenever you bounce though from a 50% level, you need to watch out for trouble at 50% the other way. Mean reverting markets tend to keep mean reverting. So from this high to this low, the 50% back level is 43.77. So that's also the daily 50 moving average. So on this bounce, that's our first target. And this one as well, potentially we could come up here, come back 50% and before we turn up again. And that would also make, there's a few of them about, an inverted head and shoulders pattern here for DOT. So watch out for 43.77. We're really not resuming the uptrend unless we can get back above it. But if we can, that would be next leg up higher for DOT. And if this was our first leg, I've got big numbers for this one, hopefully. 104. 104 is, you know, 76 for sure, but maybe 89 and then 104 for DOT. So it's all going to be about 43.77 and getting back above those daily moving averages. So sand is another one. So sand had news, and it may be that we sell the news in sand. 1 second. Can't seem to. Here we go. So I've projected the fibs again from this low that we made in June this year to this high that we made at the beginning of September. Nice three-wave correction. So this is wave 1, 2, 3. And you can see how each of these fib projection levels, we've had a really nice reaction. 1.618, 2.618, 1.618 big pullback, 2.618 big pullback. Here we are, 6.854. I'm looking for a three-wave correction here in sand. But whenever you see a double top or a lower high, this does mean that it stopped going up. So if you need to wait, then maybe take partial profit, wait for a three-wave correction, and then uptrend resume. Potentially, if we do a bigger three-wave equal move here, we could come all the way back to 5.1, 5.2 before we resume the uptrend. If we close back above 8.19, which we haven't been able to do up until now, our next target is 13.16. So sand, this lower high, just a warning of a bigger correction here. Not the end of the uptrend, just a bigger correction. Okay, and I was going to look at KDA. Let's see KDA. Kadena, here we go. This is another one. This is a classic bullish pennant shape, isn't it? So let's put log scale on and have a look at what we've done from the lows. We have really nice uptrends. We go sideways, we catch up our daily moving average, and up we go. And that's what I feel like we've done exactly here. We have made a very nice three-wave correction. We've retested the low with a typical crypto false breakdown. So if we can break out of this wedge, then we're on our way new upswing. Not quite, momentum hasn't quite turned yet. Today was a little bit of a sideways day, but I really do like this chart pattern and this one to continue higher. So I'm going to go back to the weekly. I don't know whether sometimes these fibs work and sometimes they don't. So take off the log scale. There we go. This was around this 236 fib level at 21.0048. So if we can close above 21.004 again, next upside target for me is going to be 33.8. And then maybe 44.15, but that's how I'm looking at this for now. So 5 waves up, big 3-wave correction. And if this is the next wave 3, you know, if this was wave 1, 2, big wave 3, we should really see much higher targets than this for KDA if it can do it. If not, if we can't break above 21.0048, that big fib level, then, and you can see on a retest here, it wasn't pretty, was it? Then no trade really, but quite a nice chart pattern otherwise. Okay, Claudia, I will take care of you straight after this. I will take a look at Ripple and tell. Nick, as a technical trader, do I just ignore some of those giant crazy wicks that coins make in the first hour or days of trading? Oh, you mean when they're first listed? Yeah, and you know what they tend to do is they tend to make a big range as well. So I don't ignore the price levels that they go to, but I do kind of look at the ranges that they make, and you'll find that they'll do very simple things, you know, bounce 50% and stay in the bottom half, and you know, yeah, I like it. I like to see it. So you mean this big drop? No, because that is the price that this opened at. You know, that is the price that that started at. So I don't ignore it. No. Sometimes though, they, you know, you don't see any reaction at the fib levels you draw from them, and then I tend to not. Who's my favorite YouTuber? You know, I have a lot of interest. I have very wide interests. So I try and watch stuff on YouTube that's not to do with trading. I do watch, there are some, we're so lucky. There is such good content. There are some really good traders putting out very different views. You know, we might be the same, we might have the same view about whether we're bullish or bearish, but we all have really different trading styles and methods. And there are so many different people that you can learn from. You're so lucky. You know, when I started trading, there was no social media. We used to use forums. So like I was all over forums like Trade to Win and Elite Trader, and people would post their trading strategies. You know, Forex Factory is amazing for strategies. You know, when you're it's, I don't know, I'm so glad they're still there now because they're such great resources. We're really lucky, to be honest. You know, 30 years ago, people would pay thousands to go on courses to learn what you can learn free on the internet today. So, no, I don't. Can I look at CRO for a short entry? And I'm going to look at Ripple. So Ripple's like my favourite lottery ticket because I just have this feeling that they could win. I don't know if they're going to win, but it is a bit of a lottery ticket. To be honest, most altcoins are a little bit of a lottery ticket. I think you need to buy a few. You don't need to just pick one and say that's the one that's going to make you your fortune. So here on Ripple on the weekly and on the daily, you can see that our daily moving averages have gone flat. And whenever that happens, you've got a trading range. We're pretty close to the bottom of our trading range. We could also call this, you know, if you use fibs, let's take everything off. Between the 61.8 and 38.2 is sometimes called the golden ratio zone. And now that we're underneath this 50%, I think that that's probably where we're headed. And that would be a big three-wave correction back here for Ripple dollars. So if I measure like this from this, I've measured from this high to this low, projected it from here. I think that we are headed back to the bottom in a big three-wave correction, which would be bullish. So we've got a big 5 waves up trend move and a big 3 waves back correction. So somewhere between 0.792 and 0.813 is our buy zone. So how do I behave with these buy zones? Because I tend to put an alarm there. I tend to put an order for a very small position because then even if I'm asleep and it goes down there, I get filled and then it's there on my list of positions. So I'm now paying attention to it. And so then if it bottoms, makes a decent base, I'll probably buy some more. That's how I tend to trade around these levels. But so that's what I'm looking for in Ripple, and then big leg up after that, hopefully. Not just, so a bearish would be just another 1, 2, 3 equal move, wouldn't it? But a big strong wave 3 here and a 5, that would be a very good look. So that's what I'm looking for. Ripple back to 0.81, 0.82, 0.792. Short entry TAL and CRO. Okay, TAL. I'm pretty sure I had a chart here for TAL and I've lost my list. This Ben Key's making a nice little base, isn't it, again? I keep looking at that little gem. Where's that TAL chart gone? Ta-da! Can't find, no. Can't find it. Oh, no. Never mind, let's just draw it. Okay. So TAL coin. We can start with the weekly chart, okay? God, this was pretty nasty. Okay, I don't like that at all. It's really struggling, isn't it? So let's look at the swings here. So we made a big 1, 2, 3 here, look, 1, 2, 3. Exactly equal measurement. So big correction, then we did a big 3 wave up. And now we're in this really long declining wedge. So 3 waves down, 3 waves up, and here's our wedge. Very nasty false breakout here. But God, we could be headed all the way back to the bottom of this range, couldn't we? I really don't like it when they wallow sideways like this. You know, I would have liked this much better as a declining wedge, you know, like this, and a breakout, and we'd be done, you know. So 3 waves down, 3 waves up, like this. But instead it's a much bigger one. Yeah, not for me, unfortunately, in Telcoin. I think that it's doing the much bigger thing and is headed back to, let's do this. We have to go back down to here to find out where. Okay. Let's see this 786, see if it can hold this time. Because if it can't, then I think we're headed to new lows, unfortunately. Because this time we're underneath all of these daily moving averages, whereas, you know, before we had a little bit to help us and support them. So 0.13, 0.10, we need this level to hold as support. Or I think we'll see new lows at 0.0074. So there we go. Euro dollar and Euro Swiss, let's take a look at that. Chilis, you know, I thought I had put Chilis on my list for tonight because I actually think Chilis, I don't know why I didn't write it down, because I actually think Chilis looks really good tonight. And yeah, no, I did look at that one today, and let's take a look at Chilis because it does look good, or potentially good. And then we'll go look at the euro and see what the hell's happening. Now, a lot of the euro's problems come from Madame Lagarde, because she said that the euro, they would not hike rates in 2022. Like, she's the head of a committee. Like, the committee is supposed to decide, and she just basically told the whole world that they would not hike rates for the whole of next year. Like, what's the point of having meetings? Perhaps we shouldn't bother then. Anyway, I'm not a big fan of hers. I think she's a politician rather than an economist, which I'm not sure is a good idea in that position. But there we go. I mean, I'm pleased to see a woman in that job, but, you know, they need to not let the side down. Okay. So here's Chilis. Now, normally, I've got high Kanashi candles on. Let's put them on because we're turning up again from pretty nice support. My worry about this was you know, choppy overlapping 5 ways. Yeah, I won't forget your CRO. Okay, so in Chilis, we did that thing where we got to the 61.8, pull back to the 38.2. 61.8 and 38.2 fib levels are super messy. So we overshot and we overshot here. Don't worry about it. The important thing is the 50% pivot level in the middle. because if we can get back above that and hold above that, we're in our next leg higher, and we're going to look for the 786, which would make a Gartley pattern up here. Okay, so it's all going to be about 0.5429, and if we can hold above it. So here we got above it, sat on it, and then collapsed again. So back to the bottom of the range, flat moving averages. This is what we're looking for. So it's a little bit speculative, I think, buying it here, unless we can for sure close above this daily 20 moving average and this previous high. But if we can, this is where we are headed for. We've made a really nice base. This false breakdown is bullish, and so I'd like to see it go back to the top of the range. Okay, so 0.5429, and then we'll see what happens there. Because if we just get there in an ABC move and then continue lower, it wouldn't be very good, and we would then, if we can't get above this level, we're going to drop down to here, the 236 fib, back to the 200-day. So resistance, a break above target. If we stop, then we'll do one more. Okay. So yeah, I do like Chiliz. It just wasn't quite ready, and I wanted to see the close and to see if we could go that little bit higher, you know? I'd really like to see that little bit higher for Chiliz. Another way to look at it for a breakout would be to draw it as a pennant. If we draw it as a pennant, which is basically a triangle on its side rather than a rectangle, which a flag is, then here's our pennant. Here's our pennant lows. Basically, actually, no, they come from here, don't they? It's first low. So we're looking for a breakout, and if we break this to the upside, our target is 0.758. If we break lower, next support is 0.343. CRO short. Okay, CRO short. CRV I quite like as well. I didn't put CRV on my list. We looked at it in my group this morning. This is another one, you know, it's not quite out of the woods yet, so, but on my list, CRO, we're looking for it. Okay. So here's another one that's done a big rally, big wick on the top side. So we're going to mark our fib levels, our retrace levels. Now sometimes you remember 38.2 is a messy, but so this was our 236 fib, then it became resistance. Here's we bounced off the 38.2. If we break it, we're going to head down to the 50. So beneath 0.766 would be a breakdown. But for me, I like selling rallies. And there's a little bit of a risk here. Third touch of this trend line that we bounce first. And that may mean, you know, that this is our first leg of correction, pull back, and we do a B leg before we go down again. So you need this to really break, properly break, as in short time frame, see it do that. And then there's your short entry there at 0.7066. And if it doesn't, if we instead bounce here, third touch of trend lines are very often false breaks, remember, and then you stay within them. So if that's the case here, I'm going to measure like this. Then you're going to look for it to come up to 0.7959. And if it turns lower there, that would be a sell. Or if it makes an ABC up to 0.8645, that's your other sell level here and here. So, and then it would be a proper bear flag, wouldn't it? Because it would be a rectangle. So, you know. That's how I would look. So I would sell it if it broke down here, but I would prefer it to sell it at 0.8645 CRO at the top of the flag. Okay. So let's see what's going on with the euro. All right, so we've got rampant inflation. We've got maybe a virus that's not that bad in the world, and the market overdid it. But the problem is that, you know, that the main thing that drives FX is rates. If you're going to hike rates, the currency is going to rally, and if you're never going to hike rates, the currency is not. And so this euro, you know, I had high hopes from this euro bouncing from this 61.8 level. We could still tomorrow close back above this 61.8 level, and I wouldn't be then surprised at all if we saw a bounce in the euro. And that's all going to be with, you know, whether they dash everybody's disappointment, you know, with the taper in the US. I think this is quite oversold, and by oversold I mean we are a long way from our 20 moving average or 50 moving average. We're pretty stretched. So on the weekly here. So here on the daily, this pullback and this big thrust candle on Friday, and then holding in the top half of this, says to me, you know, we could very easily close back above this fib level tomorrow, couldn't we? Could very easily do it in the euro, and then I'm not so bearish euro. I think we could see a bounce, and the bounce would take us to 1.149. So now the euro Swiss, I have to say, is like one of my least favorite. Okay, so that should mean bearish for dollar Swiss franc. The Swiss are the biggest currency manipulators out there. After the Chinese and the Japanese, the Swiss are the worst for manipulating their currency. So whenever they get an opportunity to, you know, buy dollars and sell, they will. And they're always trying to weaken the Swiss currency, particularly against the euro. So the euro-Swiss chart falling is a pretty rarity, and trust me, they won't let that last very long. I just wouldn't trade against them anymore. Let's take a look at this euro-Swiss chart. It is falling like mad, isn't it? But this is because the Swiss is seen as a safe haven, and because the euro is never going to hike rates ever again. So it's shocking, isn't it? Let's do from here. Now, I don't trust this low, so unusually I put my fibs from this bounce low here. And that's worked pretty well, to be honest. This 236 was very well respected, 38.2 was, and so on. So was this 50% and 61.8. I think we're making a pattern here called a Gartley pattern, and that would take us down to the 786 fib at 102.4. I would much rather sit and wait and buy this, but I think that this, when I look at this weekly chart and how far we are from that weekly 20 moving average, I really don't want to sell it at this point. If you're in it, well done. It's got much further to fall. Yeah. It is a straight line, isn't it? When it gets down to parity or close to parity, 1.02, back up the truck. The problem with currency manipulators is they can spring a surprise on you. Yeah. Just don't know that I trust this. See, there's an awful lot. Every way I draw it, it all lines up around 1.02. If I go all the way from that spike low, that's the 50%, you know, of the whole rally. If I put this on here, it's the 1272 from. Sorry, if I put this on, there's like everything says to me 102. It's got further to fall, but it's a little bit overstretched to sell it here. You really kind of need a bounce to get a position on. That's not a head and shoulders. Okay, why is this not a head and shoulders? A head and shoulders pattern is a topping pattern. You expect to see it at the top. Okay, so here, you know, on a bounce in a downtrend, it's not got the same kind of bearish meaning, if you know what I mean. You've been in 108. Well done, Elita. 102.1029 is where we're headed, whichever way you measure it. Sell bounces, okay? And use stops if you can, but okay. USD INR. Let's have a look. I haven't looked at it for quite a long time. The dollar's been absolutely smashing it, hasn't it? Alrighty. So whenever I see a rally that can't get beyond that 50% level, 61.8. Okay. So this is another chart I think is headed for a Gartley pattern, which would mean this 786 fib 75.98 is where I think we're headed. And that would be a big 1, 2, 3, and a bearish pattern in USD INR. So here's our first swing down, here's our second swing. We're doing a big sideways thing. You've been shorting it way before. Hey, Francis. Do you mean the market sniper? I'm a big fan of Francis, the market sniper. And I really do like his funnel charting method as well. You know, there's many ways to crack a coconut, and that guy's he's a really good teacher. I like Francis. Someone asked me earlier who my favorite YouTuber was. He's definitely on the list. Yeah, Francis. So 75.17. Now, if I'm wrong, this was our first swing. We've done a big 3 waves up, haven't we, here? And they're probably equal. There, look, equal. So if I'm wrong, this is first swing, resistance right now, and we're going to see another leg lower from here before we go up again. No, it's not a long trade. It's at resistance. It could go either way. It could go either way. 75.175 is really strong resistance. So what's going on here? Let's look at it on the 4-hour or the hourly. I think if we break above this level again, we are likely to go to 75.98. But if we turn lower here, then this will be our first swing lower. This is, if you've been long, this is a good place to take half your profit off and wait and see what happens. Okay? Month end as well. The end of the month can always be really funky. Trades that have worked really well can suddenly stop working, go the opposite direction. It can be a nightmare. Okay? So I think if we turn lower here, we've got two supports, 74 and 73.36, and I don't know which one it'll be. Okay. All right. Well, good night, everyone. See you next week. Bye. Bye.